Well, good evening and welcome aboard, everybody. This is round number 11 of the ASR Supercars Championship. It's the one that everyone's been working towards for the entire year to date. The one that everybody wants to win, the Bathurst 500. But that part of the equation comes tomorrow. Tonight is the middle week or the middle day in a 3-day run of events here at the mountain. It started last night with the development series, with line honours going to Steve Warwick. Tonight, it's all about qualifying and the top 10 shootout. So it's all about egos and just who can be crowned the fastest person around the Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit. And then we get stuck into the 81 laps tomorrow afternoon. But for now, it's qualifying night. We're in the box. My name's Steve DeVries. Alongside me is Benjamin Roddy Rhodes. Roddy, you raced here last night, and from all accounts, it was a cracker.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. Good evening to everybody at home. Hopefully everybody's a little bit more prepared than I am. I just sat down and got the PC on and just got on in time. But no, really good racing last night. Definitely some driving standards that could have been improved upon, but for the most part, it was pretty good racing. And I ended up with something like a 6-car scrap over second, with John McDonald doing his best impersonation as far as it was Lewis Wedding at Albert Park, just parking the bus at every opportunity, and kind of surprised he didn't get turfed off in the process, but he finished 4th or 5th in the end. And yeah, no, in the end, as a result of his offensive driving, it was a very big win in the end for Steve Warwick, which sets him up very nicely in an attempt to do something about perhaps lead in the Super 2 points. But we're not worrying about that. We're not worrying about that tonight. We're worrying about where people are going to start for the great race tomorrow.
Absolutely, exactly right. We're not too stressed about what happened last night. That's all said and done. And there are a few people backing up from last night for this weekend as well, tonight and tomorrow. So we wish them all the very best as well, because they've got us a lot of seat time under their belt by the time we get to the end of tomorrow night. But at the moment, looks like it's going to be 18 cars in for qualifying tonight, which means, of course, with the top 10 shootout, 8 of them will miss out after the first part of qualifying. So if we have a look at how the weekend is structured for the second of the Enduro Cup rounds, of course, there are 3. So the Bathurst 500 does double as the Supercars round number 11, so it counts in points towards the Supercars Championship. First time that's happened in quite some time. So tonight, all about qualifying. 2 hours of practice. That is literally just concluding as we speak. So drivers are in for a quick chat just to remind them of what the protocols are for tonight. And it is a 20-minute qualifying session. So unlike what happened at the Sandown 400 a couple of weeks ago, there is only one driver participating tonight. There's no race for the grid situation where each driver gets a chance to have a bit of a putt around the course on qualifying night. Tonight, you've got to make the decision, and you have to pretty much make it now. So some drivers have been swapping between each other in the saddle across the 2-hour practice sessions, finding out the strengths and weaknesses, who feels more comfortable in the car to qualify tonight, and those are the decisions that they have to make right now. They need to get whoever is qualifying into the car in the next 5 to 6 minutes so they can be ready to go once the server session ticks over. And then, of course, there is the top 10 shootout. So if they are lucky enough to be inside the top 10 after the conclusion of the first 20 minutes, we will go again for roughly 40 minutes. It will take to get through 10 drivers all wanting to have a crack at who sits on the front row and can call themselves a pole sitter for the Bathurst 500. Then we get to race day tomorrow. We'll talk more about race day tomorrow when we get to tomorrow, but you can see there what the requirements are to be done, and that's the requirements that have not changed throughout the course of the 3 years that the Enduro Cup has been around, Rody.
Yeah. So for a lot of the drivers and the teams, we have a few different options that we're playing with for tonight. Obviously, for those up the front, they'll be pushing to put the fastest driver in the car. That makes perfect sense. For those probably in the mid-pack, potentially looking at maybe their more stable driver, you very much like to be at the back end of a top 10 or sort of just outside the top 10 on a good run, but a run that you know is going to happen, rather than be up there in a top 5 with a driver that maybe hasn't quite got the full handle of the track just yet and end up spraying it wide at the chase, for example. Whereas some of the guys are in the position, Brab, who's just just joined about the same time that I did, is a good example for that. Initially, that car wasn't going to be running at all. And then with Luke Speck and Steve Roik both out, and then it was going to be Brap and Scott Murrell, who was going to be coming across from Dev Series. He actually put a lot of work into the setup the PBF are running this weekend, so it would have made sense to put him in the car. And at the last minute, it turns out that the flights that kept Luke Speck out of tomorrow's racing have been moved to put him into a spot where he can be home in time for tomorrow's racing. So probably means that Brap starts the car. And Brap's also trying to wiggle all of this weekend in around a whole bunch of uni projects he's going to get done. But he is, I think, so far managing to keep up with it. So yeah, that car will be Brap and Luke Speck, which is initially a little planned earlier than we planned. Initially, Brap, despite being on the car, was meant to only turn up for Pookie. So we've got him for 2 rounds now. But yeah, so there's all that sort of juggle going through for drivers through the field.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's been a few little permutations and a few drivers already pop up this evening mentioning that they're going to miss out on the qualifying part of it, but they will be there for race day tomorrow. So they're the likes of Pete Savage, who's paired with Steve Burko, the likes of Zach Brown, who's paired with Kurt Stenberg, and I think even tonight, as you just mentioned there, Brap, and the situation with Luke Speck and Scott Murrell. So they're still working through a few things there as well. Well, importantly, while we wait for the briefing to conclude, have a look at how the points are stacking up, because we probably won't have a lot of time to get into this tomorrow. But if we have a look at where the driver standings are, so we'll start with the team standings. We'll come back to the driver standings in the interlude. But importantly, this is the team's situation after 10 of the 13 rounds have been completed. Keeping in mind that there still is the situation around the drop rounds to come into play here. So the gap at the top, which was the same situation as it was exiting Sandown, has widened a little bit following Symmons Plains. It was actually a fairly even contest between the real Holden Pixel Racing team and CRE Engineering. They had a fairly similar sort of payload of points overall, but a couple of bad results that didn't go their way, namely Will Devonish being punted off inadvertently at the towards the latter stages of race 2 at Symmons Plains, saw him plummet down the field, and that cost them a ton of points. But behind them, there have been a little bit of gaps closing up. So it's Beyond Racing made a little bit of ground on PBF Race Engineering, and the likes of Beyond Racing Team Tanafa actually back leapfrogged the sister team, the Young Guns there as well, because Cheese and Snipes actually showed up for Symmons Plains. We hadn't seen them for a little while, so it was good to have them back, and that sort of has got a little bit of an intra-team battle or stable battle going on there, Rhodey.
Yeah, that's sort of been the you're trying to finish off and do it at the same time, but yeah, it's been a good little scrap. They did pin it off to start the season, Surrey and beyond, that they were going to have their Spiky Showdown, and I think we talked a few times offhand, myself and Cam and Pete, about changing the system somewhat, because at this point it looks like Beyond are going to lose and forfeit a whole bunch of beer money in the direction of CRE, which CRE via Cam aren't necessarily looking for that to be the outcome either, so that's pretty honourable. But no, it's been a good little scrap with those lineups. It's sort of been an interesting one, because the Young Guns on paper, you wouldn't perhaps pencil them in to be the ones quicker than Team Tanafa, but it's just by virtue of where appearances have been made, and Higginson's been, I think, turned up to almost every race this season, but the results haven't quite always gone his way, and finishing has sometimes been the biggest challenge for him. Hall's missed a few rounds, but he's been fairly quick. Kane Gray and Cheese, both capable of being much further up the front, but as we mentioned, they've missed 4 or 5 rounds. They've had 4 different drivers pop up at some point as a substitute across the season: Scott Murrell, Steve Warwick, Hayden Cupid, and Anthony Green. So actually, they've basically trawled through the lot of the front runners in Super 2. So that's what's kept them really in the run there. But and it's still a lot to play for. Crucially, with teams, as we saw for Sandown, turning up is going to help a lot today, but also just finishing tomorrow's race makes a big difference. When you get in this situation where you've got maybe 7 or 8 drivers, last car on the grid is going to get something in the region of probably 240 odd points, and that's a lot over 0.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big key piece of the puzzle, especially after Sandown, where a number of drivers were in good positions and didn't finish that race. They have got to earn a bunch of points this weekend. They can't afford another slip up. Well, we're not too far away from qualifying, so let's have a look at this place. It is no more fearsome track and no more wanted track to conquer than the Bathurst Motor Racing Circuit out on the outskirts of Sydney, heading out towards the west, and there you get to this place. It has several big name events every single year. Qualifying record is an impressive record, Brody. It's something that has been very much sought after by just about every driver in this field over the last several years, and there it stands there at a 2:02.6 from Dane Warren last year. It's going to take some effort to beat that time tonight.
It will, and I haven't actually have a chance to keep too much an eye on the practice sessions as I've gone on to see where the pace is lying. I've got in my head though the guys who we're going to see targeting or aiming to that direction. It'll be the likes of Luke Rosella, who I'm not sure if is actually present tonight, but yeah, so it'll be Luke Rosella will be up there. Noah Turrer will be in there. Will Devonish, Kurt Stenberg. Honestly, his pace has been a little bit out of nowhere in a degree, but Lime Mitch jumping in for the Kiwis tonight might actually help that out as well. Obviously in the team's points, but I could see Mitch being another one, maybe a bit sort of an outside odds favourite, but he's someone else I would put as being able to have a challenge for the fastest lap. But it will definitely take some doing.
Yeah, it definitely will take some doing. I mean, I'm looking at the times that have been set so far just tonight alone, and they're in the 2:04 bracket if you're at the top sort of time. So not sure if that's drivers that are starting to work down towards a bit of a race pace combined with a bit of a qualifying spin to them. I mean, they have got a bit of freedom to go for a qualifying setup tonight, go for a race type of a setup tomorrow. We'll wait and see how all that plays out. There's still, 20 minutes of this to figure out, and then the shootout behind that, and then we'll really worry about, whether the fours are relevant in a race pace tomorrow. I actually thought, looking at the development series last night, that the drivers at the front that were doing sort of sevens, that was quite a healthy race pace for the development series last night, 7s and 8s.
Yeah, no, it was. There was some really good pace at the front of the Dev Series field. Was very much helped by slipstream. I think the fastest lap in the end came from someone coming back out of 17th or something. Just the power of clean track where you need it and slipstream where you also need it. And that's going to be a thing. I think a lot of drivers are going to want to find someone to buddy up with for the qualifying run that we're about to start seeing.
Yep, here we go. They're all coming out now. Unlike the Supercars rounds where there's 10 minutes on the clock, the Enduro Cup rounds there is 20. So double the length of qualifying, and of course we've basically doubled or tripled the length of virtually any circuit that we visit on the calendar, because this place is 6.213 kilometres long. Most of the circuits on the Supercars calendar, and the longest one outside of Bathurst is the Bend, which is about 4.5 odd kilometres long. So actually, even this year alone, it was a shorter version of the layout. So I guess the longest circuit we probably have, I think, on Townsville, outside of the Supercars Championship, the Enduro Cup. But otherwise, there is still a lot of work to do here around 20 minutes. You've got plenty of time to put the banker lap in. That's the part of the puzzle I think a lot of drivers need to think about rather early, Brady, is find a bit of space, find a bit of a groove, get a banker lap in, get something on the board, because you don't want to be behind the 8 ball after your first run.
Exactly, and it was something actually that we ran into a little bit with Dev Series last night. There was expectation, I think, for a lot of drivers, just based on what they saw in Enduro Cup, or in the Enduro Cup briefing notes for tonight. So they were going to get a similar 20-minute session. So when we saw it was 10 minutes, there was very much a bit of a rush to all get out, because I think we all got something in the region of 2 to 3 laps to work with. Similar sort of thinking here to a degree. You're going to want to get out early and just get yourself a good clean banker lap in.
Cleans the order of the game here. Looking at this group of cars that are on screen at the moment. So you've got, Stenberg in behind, I think it's Rosella there, and then you've got Dostal, and then the second of the Beyond Electrical racing cars in the group as well. Now they were all in a bit of a gaggle coming across the top of the mountain, so they've got to now find a bit of space, and I think they've done that. and sorted themselves out. Now, there was a bit of a rule that was read with a number of drivers across the briefing notes, is to say, you know what, after what happened at Symmons Plains, and it's happening again right here, look at the logjam coming down into the final sequence of corners, they basically said there should be plenty of room for everybody to find some track space to set your laps. You don't have to be up somebody else's chuff trying to start the lap, and a lot of drivers will be looking for the toe, especially up Mountain Straight and down Conrod. But the important thing is, if you are on a lap and you come across somebody else that is also on a lap, as what happened at Symmons Plains, there's no obligation for that driver to get out of the way. You have to then either decide to pass safely, or you've got to back off. So you've got to time these opening laps and finding your space rather perfectly. You've just got to find that sweet spot where you sit in the toe, sit in the groove, you're not that far behind, so you're getting the benefit from the toe, but you're not right under someone's rear wing and compromising your own performance.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the balance on how people want to drive the lap themselves. Well, drivers that are confident in their own ability, very much can be the ones that don't mind being the head of the train. Whereas you have drivers, I mean, I'm one of them on a lot of tracks. I prefer having someone to chase, having that carrot to work with, because that really starts to drag the extra couple of tenths out of me. But and like we're seeing that actually at the moment. I think no, we're not actually. That's it's a black and white just sacked car in the fence, and actually he's put off both the other pixel cars behind him.
Oh, there's something else. Yes, a bit of an interesting situation there. I just off screen. Was it actually, which car was it there? I was watching Cam Rutledge at the moment.
It was the Wedding McDonald car. I'm not sure who's actually driving that one at the moment.
Actually, it's Lewis Wedding who's in that car at the moment. So we'll go back and see if we can see what's happened there with Lewis Wedding, as we just watched Cam Rutledge finish his lap. And actually, this is a bit of a surprise, Rody. Cam Rutledge is going to set the first time, the benchmark time at the moment. I'm actually surprised they've put Cam in this car. I would have thought that Daniel Cox would have been in this car for qualifying.
Yeah, I can only put that down to maybe just a bit more seat time and or as I said, for some drivers, just availability. So a bit of a surprise, but you know, Cam is the more senior of the two drivers. He has been driving Duros around this track since, well, the first season of Supercars racing back in 2018. So experience definitely there for him.
Here's the replay of what happened with the Pixel cars here. So Wedding had a moment. Oh, he had a big moment. He had a massive moment coming down the S's there, and yeah, compromised the sister car, both the sister cars as well. So. Or the stablemate cars there, so that was really, really awkward, and I don't think I've actually seen that before, so almost like he didn't brake for that part of the course.
Yeah, that was a bit of an odd one, the way it sort of wobbled around, and it might have just been the situation where he was that far on the edge that by the time he lost it the first time, he was just had no chance of catching it the way he was coming down the hill. Because that's really coming down that section of the hill. It's the art is how to fall downstairs gracefully, is the way to extract pace. And well, I mean, we saw this with Scott Murrell actually in the shootout yesterday. We haven't got the microseconds up to do a full comparison, but he was the only driver that managed to go wall to wall in the braking zone for the elbow. Trying to catch the slide and then trying to catch other owner's slide. In the end, he made 2 seconds. Not 2 seconds, 0.2 of a second. Which we watched it. People were up on him through sector 1. He got to sector 2, down on him by 0.2. So something in that was just magical. But he wasn't even trying to do that. It's just, as I said, the art of falling downstairs gracefully.
I thought the art of falling downstairs was like the old Jeremy Clarkson analogy back in the day. You know, it's like falling downstairs wearing leg calipers. You know, there's no graceful way to fall downstairs, basically. Darren Lochner, who's on screen at the moment, actually is a late step in, I think, for the second of the Beyond Racing Mustangs. Actually doing a pretty good job at the moment, in 8th place on the road, and his best time at the moment there sits at a 2:07.1, which is sort of that similar pace bracket to what we saw in Development Series last night. That was sort of the upper echelon of the drivers, so that's not too bad a time at the moment. And I believe he's going to be... actually, who's he sharing with this week? I think he's sharing with Ethan Knight, isn't he?
I would think so, yeah, because that car, the car he's in is the 56, which was entered for Damien Kelly and Braxton Stancliffe. Now, that entry was under the pretense of only running for only running for Cowie. So, yeah, that would be the... Yeah, I haven't seen the second driver, but I would imagine Ethan Knight would make some sense. And, yeah, probably just trying to show up some teams points, as a lot of the cars are doing... in a Enduro Cup, getting 2 cars in to pick up teams points. This will help Beyond a little bit. And as I mentioned, they're having the Enduros are starting to bring some teams back into the argument for teams points. Beyond is starting to come back into it as well. Another one as well is PBF, who vaulted from I think 5th to 3rd as a result of just finishing at Sandown. Same reason why they've got the 45 and the 0740 tonight.
Oh, actually, I've just seen a bit of a spin for Lockie Burke coming down actually from Forest Elbow, but haven't had a chance to cut back and have a look at that one. I was actually having a look because there was a Fuchs bonnet sitting on the deck at Metal Grate as well about 30 seconds or so ago. So I'm not quite sure which of the two cars that bonnet came from. But we have seen a couple of people already make a few mistakes in qualifying. Here's a very specific Bathurst livery for Brenton Foley and his good mate Phil Boak. He, harking back the tribute to the days of the old 888 wildcard entry, was it Matthias Ekstrom and Andy Prio, I think it was, back in the day with this one.
Yep, so that was the 2013 car, and I think also this was the first livery. I'm not sure if there's any significance to it for Foley's point of view, but I know this was the first livery that Phil Boak ran in the 2018, would have been the Super 2 portion of Supercars at the time. But this was Boakey's first livery, and this was also one of my first liveries in Super 2 back when we had pre-allocated liveries, because this was one of the liveries included in the pack. Yes,
that's right. So Foley resurrecting that livery. He was 6th. He's just been gazumped by Daryl Callaghan, who's actually just gone up to 6th place there. Geez, haven't these two been a revelation this year, Callaghan and Damon McDonald?
But like Donald, I think by virtue of coming in as a wild card, we got a better idea of his pace. But he came in early and was very quick. Daryl was quick, but maybe the consistency wasn't quite there. But he's not only improved upon the consistency, he's improved on the pace quite a bit. I imagine he has been spending a lot of time with CRL as he's running in one of their cars today. But I imagine he's spending a lot of time with the likes of Will Devonish, with the likes of Cam Rutledge, and he's getting to the point where, by virtue of a really good result, he was running in the top 10. I think he was the back end of the train for second for a lot of the racing last night. He's actually passed Michael McDonald, aka Cracker, in the points by virtue of I think 4 or 5 points. It's not much, but the way he keeps going on pace, Daryl's going to be pretty unchallengeable for Super 3. And this is the thing: this is just the way the cookie crumbles with the way the season fell. If Daryl had turned up with this sort of pace at the start of the year, he'd probably be in Super 2. But he's one of those situations where he's been around that long and he's only just come onto the pace now that he's going to be Super 3 the rest of the year. But I don't see him staying there much longer. No, certainly don't. Actually, I just think I figured out where that Fuchs bonnet came from. It actually came from the Stenberg and Zach Brown car, because I just saw it in the back of shot looking at Noah Tara a few seconds ago that car was missing a bonnet. So maybe a bit of smack of the wall, and they've continued on, surprisingly. So that probably meant that they had to set a lap of some nature. So Kurt's actually done that. He's actually up in 3rd place at the moment. A little bit of change throughout the top 10 at the moment. So Callahan, who was 6th a few seconds ago, is now 8th, with Noah Tara and Aiden Williams both being gazumped by Lime Mitch, who's jumped up into 5th place as well. So 5th place car in the hands of Lime Mitch. Actually, that is being shared, I think, with Tim Redmond. That is the 43 machine. Yes, it is the pink machine. So I'm not sure. I actually don't mind the choice, actually. Redmond's been the bit of a rub of the wall there. Redmond's been the one that's been in and out of this car all season long, but taking a bit of a back seat this one, putting the very fast Lime Mitch, who actually had a brilliant return at Simmons Plains 3 weeks ago. Well, this is the thing as well, is based off of Sandown, and to be fair, if Tim and or Peter in the chat want to update me and let me know that things have changed. But last I remember at Sandown, we were commending Tim for his work despite only having one operable foot for driving. So if that's still where things are sitting, that would make some sense as well as to why he's put Mitch in the car, just simply to give himself the least seat time possible so that he's physically match fit. But at the same time, yeah, we've seen Mitch's pace as soon as he came back into the season. There was a point there in practice with Simmons where I think he was ahead of Will Devonish, was ahead of Noah Tara. He's looking very handy now as well. He's 3/10 to the better of his PB, which would put him between Will Devonish and Noah Tara. Still needs a little bit to pull in on Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg, and Luke Rosella, unsurprisingly, a league of his own. Yeah. But really good pace so far to Lime Mitch, and it makes sense. These guys probably, if strategy falls into it, probably a dark horse to finish really well tomorrow.
Yeah, so Tim's just confirmed in the chat he definitely is still carrying that injury, so absolutely spot on as usual, Rhodey, that this is very much risk mitigation, trying to get as match fit as he possibly can, and Mitch does indeed go fourth. Higginson was off the road at Murray's there as well. He was down well and truly down the escape road heading back towards downtown Bathurst. He's come back on the track. So Mitch up to fourth, and I say that would see him safe. So a 2:05.2, I think for Line Mitch is very, very safe at the moment. I don't think there's under any threat of being gazumped by anybody in the next 7.5 minutes. Same for Will Devenish. So I think with a 2:04.8, he's safe. Stenberg 2:04.7, he's safe. And then, as you said, Rosell league of his own 3 and 4. And I guess coming into tonight, unsurprisingly, was the $1 and basically 0.0001 of a cent favourite for pole.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's making any money off putting their bets on the South Australian for pole. That said, we saw it not a large degree, but we did see it last night that pole ended up coming out of a driver who started the run started fifth in the queue, partially by virtue of again a convenient wobble at the elbow, which gained 2/10, but also a couple of drivers further up just pushing a little bit too hard and finding the track limits and finding themselves on the other side of them, which picked up a track cut. I think it was one of the young ones who picked up, might have been Williams. You just noticed something?
Yeah, just Berg was keeping watching Steve Burke. He made a bit of a mistake coming down the braking zone towards the dipper, and it was very, very wide, out of control there. It'll be interesting to see what it does to his split down here at the end of sector 2 at the elbow. And yeah, they definitely disagree with him. That definitely cost him a little bit of time. And actually, his first lap wasn't actually all that too bad either. He's actually 17th on the timing sheet, 7.7. The only car slower than them at the moment is Brandon Dostal in the second with the CRE Anson cars with a 10.3. Actually, that's definitely not representative of a time that I would expect in Dostal to be, considering he was running pretty handsomely in development series last night before he blew the motor. And actually a few people, I think, had some tyre change issues last night, because it's one of those events that we don't have a lot of pit stop races in development series. They've started to be introduced this year, and a few people have not quite cottoned on to how to get the tyre changes done properly, and a few people had some rears that didn't go on and had all sorts of dramas last night. They led to a few DNFs, but they'll learn. And Dostal's definitely still got some room to improve. Having a look at the timing screens at the moment, cluster of cars that are sitting on the bubble. So Foley in 8th with a 6 flat. The next man ahead of him is Lockie Burke on screen at the moment. His best lap's a 5.5, which I think is probably the cutoff. You want to be aiming at the mid-5s to make sure you get in. Foley on a 6 flat, Aidan Williams on a 6 flat, Darren Loughlin 6.4, Darryl Callahan 6.5, Brapp a 6.5, and then Cupid a 6.6. They're the ones that are on the bubble, I think, at the moment, or on that borderline of getting in. So that's 8th through to 13th at the moment, with 4 3/4 minutes left.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's really where the swing state is. Yeah, Berkey probably the last one of the safeties. He is 4/10 clear of Foley at the moment. Business to see what sort of pace drivers are sitting on, and for some of these guys, whether they're at their true pace. Actually, Aidan Williams just popped up ahead of Berkey, so
he has actually.
Maybe Berkey's not quite as safe as we thought, but yeah, Williams, I'd say, then definitely also in the window. Again, 4/10 quicker than Foley. But as I was going to say, it depends on how many of these drivers, the pace they've set, is that their optimum pace? Have they got a bit more to go? I think for some of the guys in Super 2, Super 3, perhaps this is as hard as they can push, but at the same time, we've seen how quick Callahan's been as he's gone a little bit faster again. We've seen how quick Wagner has been. Obviously, we know how quick Aidan Williams has been. But people like Brapp could probably go a bit quicker. He's done a bit of a mixed Supercars Super 2 appearance this season. Cupid, not the quickest driver in that car, but he's not been too slow this year either. No. Foley, we know, can go quicker if the track agrees with him as well.
Yeah, well, Burke's just improved to 7th place, but he didn't improve by a lot. He only just jumped Foley by a bee's dick, essentially. Only 0.078 of improvement. Higginson, I noticed, had set nearly 2/3 of a second up at the Sector 1 split, but he hasn't carried that on to Sector 2. In actual fact, it's gone back the other way. So he's definitely somebody I was expecting to be a bit quicker at the moment than a 7.7. Actually, what was it? Was he 7? He was a 7-7. He's a 7-3. Sorry, that was when I last looked. So he's still got some room to go to find out. Everybody's on the track at the moment. Every single car is on the circuit at the moment. Even the drivers that are safe are on the circuit. So they are taking time to adjust some setups and try and fine-tune the car, because some of them are definitely going to be in the shootout. At least the cars that are, on a 5-5 or above, so that's the top 8, I think are safe as they sit right now. Well, Callahan's gone back to the pits. He'll need to get out very bloody quickly. Same with Hayden Cupid. He'll need to get out pretty quickly if he wants any hope of setting another time, because it takes you the better part of 2 minutes to get around, and you need to be leaving the lane right now.
Yeah, because there are a lot of drivers really setting themselves up in particular ways to really sort of maximise that run. I can see Foley's already setting up for what he's aiming to be a final run. He's very slow over the top, just trying to get some heat into the tyres, which is a thing when it's in the shootout as well. Takes ideally till lap 3 to get proper heat in these tyres to get true pace out of them. So whether we see people run rotated sets into the shootout, or whether we see some really, really aggressive warm-up laps, that'll determine it. But yeah, a lot of drivers, I saw Brapp at one point as well, coming into the last corner, about 20 seconds ago, setting up for a run. So similar thing there. A lot of these drivers now, yeah, this is their final run.
Yes, Cupid got out in time, so Lewis Wedding's in the garage. He won't have another lap. Same with Lockie Burke, so 6th and 7th places at the moment. They look like they've done enough. They're safe. Darryl Callahan, who's on the bubble, he's 10th at the moment. He is in pit lane, so he is the one at risk here. If any of the drivers behind him, Lochnan, Brapp, Cupid, Higginson, Rutledge, if any of those drivers can find a little bit of time, they are the ones that will jump him. So Rutledge at the moment, in a little bit of a moment, and Devenish had a moment there at the cutting, and lucky for Rutledge, he was able to scoot on through the gap. And how does that affect his time up here at the Sector 1 split? Is it an improvement? It is, 0.2 of a second, but that's not going to launch him far enough up the grid. He needs to find more.
Yeah, he's at a little bit of a way to go. He's going to pass his teammates first in. I can't remember who Ryan's. I know Cupid is. I was looking at the rear window sponsors and looked familiar. But yeah, he's gonna launch past Cupid. He's gonna launch past Brapp. He's gonna launch past Logan. I'm not sure if it's going to be worth. He's looking in the region. He's going to gain nearly 0.8 off of his previous PB. It's possible, but whether it's within Cam's pace window, I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, look at the split. 0-0-0 at Sector 2. He's right.
So he's lost time there. He's right on it. But yeah, to pick up 0.8 in the last sector, his current PB must be it sounds to be a really shocking last sector for him to make up 0.8.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I fear that he's going to probably improve the time a little bit, but he probably won't improve the place by very much. So there's not a lot of improvements going on out there at the moment. So Rosella's in the shed, so too Devenish. Noah Tara, he's finished as well. So they are all safe, those 3 drivers that I just mentioned. Rutledge with a bit of a wiggle. Mitch coming to the lane as well, so he's going to be safe. Rutledge doesn't improve, so he stays 16th. So he doesn't need to worry about anything there. This man on screen, Aidan Williams, was I think was called as being safe. And he's had a moment there at the second to last corner, so he is done and dusted, and will come to the lane. Brandon Dostal's just made a mistake at the S's and coming into the dipper, and he is now done. And I think that might be all she wrote. The only person I can see left on track is Brenton Foley. He's just exited Forest Elbow, and I think he now knows that with Cupid, Ryan Smith and Steve Burko out there, he is definitely going to be safe. Is either of them on a lap? Burko is, and he's down at the chase.
Burko is, Hayden was, Brapp was as well. Brapp went wide
Ryan
at
Smith.
The cutting.
Actually, Ryan Smith
nearly spun over the top.
So Smith coming to the final corner now. Has he got anything? He goes 11th. Oh, heartbreaking.
Whoa.
He goes 11th, and he is a 10th outside getting into the shootout. Burko actually improved there as well, and Cupid gave up on the lap.
Yeah, Cupid gave up a lap, and Foley's brought in the pit lane because he realised he doesn't need to push any harder now. But yeah, Cupid got it sideways coming under the tree, and we did a good enough job catching it. But yeah, by that point, it was very much gone. A lot of drivers trying to push very hard there, and obviously in that last run to pick up time, it was Cupid and Brapp who managed to time it perfectly. They got to the line with about 10 seconds left to go, so they could have a second crack at it. But in the end, both of their runs ended effectively before the first sector mark.
And the early call from Daryl Callahan to come into the lane with about 3 minutes left and not to go out again somehow will yield him the first position in the top 10 shootout on the other side of this. So he's a very, very lucky boy. Nearly got jumped by Smith and survives by little over a tenth.
Yeah, that was either well, I mean, it could have been a good call. It could have just been an honest take of this is as fast as I can go, and obviously I'll leave it up to the gods. But in the end, yeah, it's put Callahan in the top 10, and we know what his pace is like. So it'll be interesting to see if he can vault himself any further up. And as I mentioned, as much as getting good pace in a shootout matters, just getting to the line, getting back around to the line with a time on the board is really I think going to help out some of the guys at the back end of this top 10.
Yeah, no, I think so too. So we're just waiting on a few drivers just to get themselves sorted here because we are going to go into the top 10 shooter in a handful of minutes. So just waiting on server to tick over, and then we'll do a reset and get it all again. So those that made the shootout in order of how they will appear in the shootout: Daryl Callahan, Brenton Foley, Aidan Williams, Lachlan Burke, Lewis Wedding, Lai Mitch, Noah Tara, Will Devenish, Kurt Stenberg, and Luke Rosella. That is the 10 drivers who have made the shootout. All right, so that means the likes of who are missing out there. So Higginson, Brapp, Cam Rutledge, Steve Burko, Brandon Dostal, Hayden Cupid, Darren Loughnane, and Ryan Smith were the unfortunate, unlucky 8 drivers that missed out.
Indeed, yeah.
Who's the surprise out of that one, Rody? Who do you think was the one that you expected to be up there but probably didn't? I would say Higginson probably is the bit of the disappointing one for me.
Higginson, I could see a couple of times I caught up with him. The car was running a little bit wide for his liking, so I'd imagine that maybe he was chasing some dramas throughout qualifying. The surprise package for me of those, I'm surprised Cupid wasn't a little bit further up. He wasn't as quick as Dane around Sandown, but he wasn't too far off. That said, Cupid's had a pretty busy week. He's only just recently gotten back from the track IRL. He's one of the few guys for Sideways Esports who work for Tickford. So he had places to be last weekend. But Cupid not quite as far up. Ryan Smith probably. I think he would have liked to have been a tenth or two quicker. There's another one. Oh no, it was Dostal was the one I was thinking of. He got out there and did the right thing. He got out there on the track with all the other guys. He got out there on track with all the other guys in sort of the front pack. He was in the train with the pixel cars, and to be fair, he actually was the sort of the fourth victim from that pixel pile up because with where Rosella ended up stopped, he was trying to get out the way as soon as possible. So he ended up coming back he didn't really come back onto the track because he was already on the track. He was up against the wall. There was really no place to be off the track, but he came back up to pace as Dostal was catching him through the right-hander after the bottom of the S's. And in the end, there was a little bit of front-to-rear contact, which killed Dostal's run. He wasn't too pleased. There was quite a bit of headlight flashing. I don't really think there was much that could have been done there specifically, but and then we sort of caught him back with other points. I think he probably had himself pinned to be in the top 10. So, he's one driver that probably a little below the expectations that I would have thought that I would expect him to be at.
Yeah, and I've actually just seen a few little messages going back and forth as well. Looks like there was a couple of issues that were raised in that qualifying session. A few drivers will definitely need to have a bit of a cool down and figure out a couple of things. So we'll wait to see what's going on there. But we'll let that one sort of work its way naturally out as things go on. Now we are going to hopefully do a couple of the customary interviews as drivers do finish their shootout laps. We expect we're probably not going to get everybody, but I'm looking to see if anybody else is nominated in here that they would like to have an interview. I haven't seen anything from anybody yet. They're normally meant to be up in the server, but we'll give it a few minutes and we'll wait for those drivers to nominate. But just getting the last couple of people organised in the session, and we'll be right to go for the shootout.
Yeah, we should be getting underway with that fairly soon.
Yep, so just making sure we have indeed got everybody for the shootout. Looks like we have got the 10. We actually just made a small request to make sure we had only the 10 drivers in the server that needed to be there, and everybody else was asked to join the live stream. It just gives the drivers a little bit of privacy. They don't need other people in there or people in their ear watching what they're doing, trying to talk to them or things like that. We just want the 10 drivers that are required to be there, and it's nice to have, I think, as well. You don't need 8 other guys watching you throughout the course of the lap. You just want to get in, get your lap done, and just, you know, everybody needs a bit of space. So nice to see we have got everybody. I haven't seen any messages pop up. The only person I can see who's sitting below us that's in the shootout is Lewis Wedding. So we might see if we can drag Lewis, and Lime Mitch is there as well. So a couple of drivers maybe we might have a little chat to after their laps are over, but we're not going to bother them about that now.
Yeah, I'd imagine some drivers potentially are potentially floating around in their team chats. I know Foley might be benefiting from someone like Brap sort of walking through it. Callahan probably one of the serial drivers. I mean, both the amped up racing series cars in the top 10, obviously both series engineering cars in the top 10. So they'll be sort of working each other along. Yeah, we'll get to a few guys if we get a chance to.
Yeah, we'll certainly will. Well, here comes the first man in the shootout. Debut in the shootout. So we got to see him in Supercars for real a couple of rounds ago when he debuted at Townsville, and he's now had a couple of Supercar rounds under his belt because he was at Sandown 400 as well. But this is his first time in a shootout in Supercars. And looking at a couple of comments in the live chat, this is one, Tuna Tribe TV. This is absolutely spot on. This is win it or bin it time. You're a hero or you're zero. The worst you can start is 10th. And for this man, he qualified 10th. The worst he can start is 10th. So it's all upwards from here, Rhodey, if he gets it right.
Exactly. As one of the early runners, very much set a clean lap, but you're one of the drivers that can really make something if you have a little bit extra push. It's the guys at the back end that, you know, are already sort of bookmarked for the top 4 slots that very much lose it, they're the ones that probably have to back off a little bit. I have to only run it at 9.5 tenths as opposed to pushing the full 10 tenths. But, you know, someone in the position of Darryl, of Foley, we're going to see later, definitely, you know, go broke or go, go hard or go home. Because the worst you can end up is 10th. Yes. And for a race as long as 81 laps, finish, you know, starting a few, 3 or 4 spots back on where you thought you might end up doesn't really make much of a difference.
No, it certainly does not. So Callahan exits the elbow. He's spending quite a good amount of time getting the car prepared, which is always important in a situation like this. You know, as you were alluding to, Rhodey, sometimes it takes a good 2 or 3 laps to get the tyres up to temperature. So you don't have that time in the shootout. You absolutely need to be onto it straight away. Now, you've got to get your tyres prepared, you've got to get yourself ready to go, and then important thing for me is start the lap early, which it looks like he's doing now. He's getting the brakes up to the nice temperature. They get a nice hard hit of brake pedal there. The temperature goes through the roof. They then get another huge hit here down at the bottom of the hill, and it looks like he's commenced the lap pretty much at the point I was expecting him to, which would be just before the kink heading into the chase.
Yeah, you want to get onto it early so that you're not flustered as you get to the line to start the time. So the first thing is getting this first corner right. Very easy place to throw the lap away. We saw this happen to 1 or 2 drivers last night, but pretty good run for Callahan there out of turn 1, and he's starting to run up Mountain Straight.
Here we go. So pulling the gears as he goes up the hill, 4th gear, up into 5th, and then you just get 6th gear just before you get over this little rise here and head down, and you're not in 6th gear for very long before you hit the anchors for turn number 2, Griffin's Bend. Got it tucked in quite nicely there. Just looks very smooth from onboard here, Rhodey. So I don't think he's doing anything too untoward here. Looks like a very, very clean lap. Just trying to keep it off the walls and put something on the table. That's all he's looking to do here. Oh, little bit of a moment through the exit of the cutting though.
Yeah, it's a clean lap. It's not necessarily a slow lap. I can see definitely some decisions made in gearing choices that are preferencing stability over outright pace. So a little couple of moments here I can see where he might be able to go a little bit quicker than what he's currently doing. That said, it's not a slow run. It's just maybe not the most flamboyant. But sometimes the tidy runs are what actually pull the pace out. So good run over the top of the hill, and now he comes down through the S's.
Yeah, nice and tidy at the moment. So 53.4 to the first sector here, and looking to see what his second sector time is when it comes about. His time to get into the shootout was the cutoff time. It was a 206.287. So if you can get pretty close to that time, you're not doing too badly. He's 127.9 to the second sector, which is a 34.5 middle sector. Now pulling fifth gear, get to this little awkward spot. You get to pull sixth gear before you go up and over this rise, so it feels like the car's sort of going to stall. Sixth gear, 290, just touching 290, 192 before he hits the brakes, heading into the chase. So went as deep as he dared going into the final sequence of corners. Been a very tidy lap so far. Been very, very impressed with this lap. Very measured, very, very nicely driven. Just the only slight error coming exiting the cutting where the car jumped sideways on him. But it's going to be in the sixes. It's a 6.6, so it's 0.4 of a second away from what he did to get in, and that's not too bad.
No, exactly made the point. Just a clean lap. He's getting the good pace set up. He's getting a time on the board, and very much can pick up a couple of spots as this session goes on if something happens to the drivers in front of him. But 6.6, it's a very good place to start. And realistically, I don't expect to see too many drivers going better than what they did in qualifying, given they had the time to heat the tyres up that they don't have here.
Yeah, so it's all about measuring how close you can get to your lap that you did to get into the shootout. So for Darrell Callahan, 0.4 away, I'd say that's a win. That's a tick box for him, and very, very nice job. Brent Foley, on the other hand, was a 206 flat, so that's what we're looking for to see how he can go. And now, of course, we've got the benchmark references to what Callahan's sector laps, or sectors on his lap were, to compare against Brent Foley, who's now on the clock.
Yeah, so good run there for Foley. A little bit more of the inside curb and a little more of the outside curb as well. So definitely using a bit more of the track limits than we saw from Callahan. You're starting to push in the territories where you're going to risk snagging a little bit of grass or a little bit of the off track, and it will spray the car around. That said, we know Foley's no stranger to a car that likes to get sideways. So that said, I think we're going to see a pretty measured lap from him here.
Yep, although he was quite aggressive into one. He's a little bit aggressive at turn two, and I think it actually got away from him there a little bit. Looked like he was a little bit wide of the apex. A little bit of a puff of smoke from the inside front right tyre going through turn two, and it looked like he was a little bit wide coming out of Griffin's. Well, the first sector will be the telling tale here. 53.4 for Callahan on his opening salvo in the shootout here. Foley, 6.5 of a second to the good. And a 52.7 for Brenton Foley.
Yeah, it's hard to pick of where that was happening because it was very smooth lap.
Oh, he nearly threw it away too. He had two wheels in the grass coming through McPhillamy Park, a la Peter Brock back in the day as well. And now it's the one-track groove heading down through the dipper. So Foley a little bit lucky to escape out the other side of McPhillamy Park and not throw the lap away.
Yeah, the second section will be interesting to see.
Locked it up there too.
Pick up a little bit there, even with a couple of small mistakes as we're spotting. No, actually lost 0.3 there.
Yeah, he lost plenty of time there, 34.7, so he's about 2.5 slower through the middle sector, and I reckon that was costly, not so much across the top of the hill, but when he locked the tyre going down into the elbow and couldn't get the car online, he lost a little bit of time there, having to wait to pick the throttle up.
Yeah, so it's hurt him a little bit. He's still going to be pretty good. Reference to Callahan's case of how well his time's going to hold up against those yet to come. But coming down now into the last corner, a little bit squirrely on the brakes on the way in, but he's still got a good run out.
5.6 improved.
Picked up that time again in the last sector.
He found a truckload of time in the final sector. He found a full half a second, and he has beaten his qualifying lap by 0.3 or almost 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, that's very good run in the end, and yeah, all down the last sector that he was able to clean up. That was a very good run in the end.
Very, very good run in the end. We just lost you briefly for a second there, Rody, but that's all good as Foley concludes his lap. And now another debutant, not just in the shootout, but debutant in Supercars. He has not had a run in Supercars until this round, and what a moment to debut in the main game here in ASR, but by staking a claim and putting down a huge benchmark lap. Aidan Williams in the second of the CRE amped up racing Mustangs. And a little bit of a moment. That's going to be a little bit costly. He locked a brake going into Murray's corner there, and that could ruin the start of his lap. And he was a 5.5, so his lap to get into the shootout was a 5.5. So he was 0.2 of a second quicker than what Foley just went. Can he repeat it? Tall order.
Yeah, I think he's going to come pretty close. Obviously, very early to making some claims, but he's so far very, very sort of clean, nice bit of aggression in the run so far. Coming up now through turn 2, a little bit wide of the apex, got it back there, but actually got to third a lot earlier than the other two drivers. So maybe carrying a bit more exit speed. Good run now up through the cutting, gets it right down to the apex without touching the wall, and back out wide a little bit sideways. That's a little bit of road. Untravelled on, but still a good run into the first sector split.
Yep, nice and close to the fence coming up under the tree as well. 7.5 tenths down though, so this is going along the way that what's written on the underside of the rear wing on that car, which is hashtag keep it clean. He's keeping it fairly clean at the moment, but the time clock definitely disagreeing with him at the moment. Slower than Callahan to the first sector. Now will the tyres start to come in a little bit more? Great shot from the wall cam at the Gazoo Racing dip up out the other side. Still nice and clean so far. Round, a little bit wide. Wanted to be probably a little bit closer to the right-hand side there to open up the approach to the elbow. How was he across the top? Lost more time.
Yeah, so very much trying to get a time on the board. I was surprised they didn't at least make a gain on Foley there through that middle sector based on how far Foley fell off in reference to Callahan. But yeah, just trying to push it clean. Actually, I think I know what the problem is with this car. They're running a shorter gear ratio.
Oh, so they haven't...
It was topping out at 270 on the rev limiter down Conrod.
That explains a lot. So to get into the shootout with a limited gear ratio situation is extremely odd. I'm very, very surprised at that. If you've just picked that up, Brady, that's a brilliant bit of detective work. Aidan Williams, the 7.5, so unfortunately for him, currently the slowest of all the drivers, but how bizarre. Wrong drop gear ratio. Well, it's actually not in Supercars for ASR. Yeah, it's not a mandated ratio. It's free ratio. So you can pick whichever ratio you want. So that's a horrible mistake if they've picked the wrong ratio. They're a good 20 kilometres an hour slower down Conrod than anybody else.
The only thing I'd say is, as I imagine that they're able to qualify in the right setting and just missed applying the setup or something, or missed something in applying the setup itself. When Aidan came out for his shootout, and probably didn't notice it himself until just confirmed from Aidan Cupid in the chat, he forgot to change it. So yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that's a horrible mistake. Big mistake as Lachlan Burke starts his lap. So Williams, incidentally, so he was a 5.5 to get into the shed. He just did a 7.5. It's 2 seconds of a lap slower, and majority of that can be contributed to the wrong gear ratio.
Yeah, which would have explained his issues across the top as well, because he would have been in the wrong gear for most of the corners. But now we got Lockie Burke, the first of the 2 Pixel cars in the shootout, the first of the 2 lead Pixel cars in the shootout. He's running, he and the sister 888 car are running tributes to the 2009 Bathurst. I remember it was the 60th anniversary of Holden it was running, which is where you see the 88 on the bonnet of this one, but there is 100 on the bonnet of the 888. And good run so far for Berkey up through the first sector, keeping it very clean, but not backing up too much on the pace. And he's the first one green of the last couple of cars we've seen. He's green by 1.5 tenths. Yeah,
1.5 tenths. Not too bad for Lockie Burke coming across the top of the mountain. So it was a 5.4 for him to get into the shootout. So he'd be looking to get somewhere towards a high 5, which should be good enough to sort of put him, around Brenton Foley at the moment. That's where he's going to be targeting. He wants to obviously go quicker than Foley. And Foley's time, all of it virtually came in the final sector. He was good at sector 1, dropped the time at sector 2, and then smashed sector 3. So for Burke, he's actually miles up at the moment. So you can see there, 8.5 tenths of a second. But keeping in mind that, as I said a few seconds ago, all of Foley's time came in this sector right now. He somehow managed to pull a lot of it back. So it might yet even out. It might get a little bit better. But for the moment, Burke is purple in Sector 1, purple in Sector 2. But he's going to have to piece it all together here in Sector 3. Good job through the chase. Little bit of a lock break. Nothing too sinister there. And he'll now move down to the final corner here, targeting to get into the 5s. Looks like he's going to do it. And he does a 5-1. So he improves by 0.3 of a second. And he's currently the front runner with not quite half the field completed.
Yeah, it just still loses a little bit of time in that last sector, though. I think part of that can be attributed to the slight wobbles he was picking up on the run out of the chase. But still a good run there for Lockie Burke.
Absolutely. Well, what do we make of this man here, Rhodey? He was in the main game seat of Holden Pixel Racing Team for most of the first half of the season, or first third of the season, I guess we could call it. Decided he wasn't good enough. Gave up the seat, put Luke Rosella in there, now finds himself at the sister team. This is like Red Bull Racing and Toro Rosso back in the day. He's making somewhat of a comeback.
Yeah, it's similar to that, or similar to, I think it was 2006 HRT, the bit of the 2005 HRT, the swaps with the driver lineups for the Enduro. Similar thing here as well. But yeah, teaming up with a driver who did recently actually get the full official confirmation text from the team boss that he was sacked from PBF and will be probably joining the Big Brain team themselves next year. But Lewis Wedding in the car for the shootout makes some sense. He has got a lot of history around this place.
He certainly does. He's a little bit offline, a little bit of a different angle there for the cutting. I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just correcting the car's own momentum and own pitch as it went through that corner there. But he's giving it everything at the moment. Nothing in it at Sector 1 split. He is quicker than Burke, but nothing in it. And he rubs the wall on the exit there as well of Silverman Park. So he's leaving nothing on the table here, Wedding. Does the same thing Foley did, drops 2 wheels backside of the curb at McPhillamy Park. And this is very much a committed lap.
Yeah, picked up a slide there through the bottom of the S's. I'm surprised he managed to gather it up and get it through the left-hander at the bottom. But yeah, very hard lap here. Very much on the ragged edge, it would seem, for Lewis and/or for how the car is behaving within itself. Lost a little bit of time there, but he's still in the window. It'll be how much Burke made in the last sector compared to what Lewis can do. That's right. Well, the tail looked a little bit unstable coming down the hill, heading into the elbow as well. So wondering whether they've gone for a bit of a more of a pointed car here, so Lewis can attack as much as he possibly can. He gets it into the chase, uses a fair bit of the curb there as well, so gets through the chase quite cleanly. And now down to Murray's for the final time. So there's nothing in it here for Lewis Wedding. To get into the shootout, his lap time was a 2:05.46. He's just done a 2:04.9. Yeah, that was a very nice turnaround in that final sector. Very good work for Lewis Wedding there. Yeah, certainly was for Lewis Wedding. I'm not sure if he's with us at the moment. He might want to have a quick little chin wag. Lewis, have you got us?
Yeah, mate.
Happy with that one? Faster than what you did to get into the shootout?
Yeah, so in the qualifying I did a mid-5 or something like that, but I had the sectors to do a 4, and I thought for a moment at McPhillamy on this lap I'd stuffed it because I just couldn't get the nose in, but the first sector was good and was able to hold on for the rest.
Well, did a fine job at the moment. Quickest man so far. Half the field gone, half the field to go. Well done.
Thanks, guys.
Here's Lime Mitch. When's the last time we saw Lime Mitch at Bathurst, Rhodey? He was a race winner. He is a former Bathurst 500 winner with Luke Rosella. So it's been a couple of years since we saw him out in a supercar, let alone at Bathurst, but here he is. Yeah, I think the last time we saw Lime Mitch prior to Simmons Plains was at Bathurst when he won the race. So very much a tall order to back up there. Winning the race the last time out, he's going to have to set himself up fairly nicely tonight to start to achieve that. Good run so far up through this first sector.
A little bit of a hesitation on the throttle there, trying to get the car to behave the way he wanted to. A little bit sideways, but nothing completely out of the order, and he's improved on Lewis Wedding by a tenth.
10th.5 up, he's flowing the car beautifully at the moment. He's not hit a wall so far. Got a little bit loose there as we're riding on board, coming over the crest into McPhillamy Park, but he's looking very, very handy. Just looked really, really well balanced. That's not quite too balanced. He got a little bit out of control just on the curb coming down through the S's, but he was very neat and tidy through the dip up. And now onto the elbow, and he's pulled it up quite nicely, turns it in early actually, and now can drive it out the other side. Maximum usage of the real estate. The clock agrees with him. He's improved to a 3.5 tenths to the good, and looking like he will go to the top here. But it's all about how fast can he go, how quick can he get that speedometer up to before he hits the anchors? Approaching 280, 291, 92, 94. I saw a 94, 294 Ks before he did it, and he blocks the brake going in, but somehow he pulls it up.
I don't know how he saved that. He looked like he was getting ready to bowl either backwards or straight in through the sand trap, but a good catch in the end. He gets down to the last corner. Nice use of the track limits on the outside. He get himself squared up very nicely for the corner exit, and it's going to be a 4.7
against his time to get in, which was a 5.2. So that's a 5/10 of a second swing for Lime Mitch. That's a massive improvement, and he joins us now. And Mitch, it's been a long time since we've seen you at Bathurst, but you're saving your best for last. It was great to see.
Yeah, geez, heart rate's through the roof after that one.
Yeah, I was about to say you were looking quite good, and you went as deep as you dared going into the chase, and you managed to pull it up.
Yeah, just locked the rears, I think, or a bit of skating it in, but held on to it.
No, well done, mate. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Cheers.
Noah Tara, stable mate car for one of the other ones we've seen out earlier in the day, and here he goes heading towards turn number 1. So this is the first of the CRE engineering Mustangs to go out, and Will Devonish will not be too far behind him.
Yeah, so good run for Noah to get himself this deep into the shootout. There's only 3 more drivers to go past him. And very much having a crack now at that 4.793 we've seen from Lime Mitch. So I can't actually remember the time he set to get in. It would have been quicker, but I don't think by too much. So bit of a challenge ahead for Noah Tara. And I think we got another on mute, so I will keep going.
We have actually. Now you've got me back for a second. We'll have to deal with a little something there. But yeah, a 4.913 for Noah Tara is what he did to get in. So he's got to go faster, and it's not going to happen like that. 0.3 of a second down on Lime Mitch at the first sector split. So he's got a lot of work to do over the top here. Yeah,
he does. He very much... full commitment here. We can see down through the S's was lobbing it over all the apex curves he could find. Getting close to the wall where it matters, leaving a bit of space where it doesn't. Good run now down through here, getting it squared off very nicely. Early apex, but almost double apex is the corner, and gets a good run out of the bottom of the... No, actually I say good run, but he's lost another 0.3.
It looked good, but the clock said no. So that just goes to show you how good a lap Lime Mitch's lap was at the last a few seconds ago. And Tara's now going to be super committed into the chase here to really make anything of this lap. Right now, he's tracking like he's actually going to be somewhere around about Brenton Foley, or actually between Lockie Burke and Brenton Foley, based on the way the clock's agreeing. So this would be a net loss for him. The eyes have been on car 237, which is a new addition. I actually just noticed from the broadcast camera, but unless he can improve here, he falls into 4th, which is, precisely between Lachlan Burke and Brenton Foley. So not the best of laps for Noah Tara, but I guess it's still a long race tomorrow, Noah. So I guess you put that one away and just focus on tomorrow.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good lap for me. Kind of came in a bit conservative, just trying to get one in, and probably went a bit too conservative. I have a bit more pace than that, but oh well, is what it is.
Well, there you go, and I like the fact that he's quite philosophical about it as well. So look forward to seeing what you can do tomorrow.
Yep, thanks.
And then there were 3, Rody.
Yep.
And the third last man out is the current points leader in Will Devenish. He's got quite a handy margin still at the moment in the point standings, but it has been eroded a little bit in the last couple of rounds with the DNF for himself and his teammate Curtis Igmanis at the Sandown 400, and a less than ideal points haul at Simmons Plains, but still with a drop round to factor in. He is still in the box seat for the title, but there is still plenty of miles to go. 4 races total. Actually 5 races total, including tomorrow's 500, still with points on offer.
Absolutely. So very much still in the window of opportunity. He wants to start up very well and pick up as many points as he can tomorrow. But for now, the focus is on what's the lap he can produce. He's aiming to beat Mitch's 4.7. He would have been faster than that in the shootout, but as we've seen from the drivers across the field, and Noah being a good example, probably running a very similar setup, you're not guaranteed of going any faster than your qualifying lap in the shootout. It will take a little bit of time to get the track temp or to actually get the tyre temp to where you need it.
No, that's it, and you can see here it's 4.4 was Will Devenish's time to get into the shootout, so it was a relatively safe time, and he set that fairly early in the session to get into the shootout, so a 4.4 for him would be enough for the provisional front row at the moment, with the 2 fast Holdens of Stenberg and Rosella to go. He's not going to go fast looking like that. Very, very tail happy coming up under the tree. And again, like I think it was Lewis Wedding a little while ago, or Lockie Burke, one of the two, there's nothing in it at Sector 1.
Yeah, he might have been a little further up, if not for the slide, but we talked about, picking up the slide maybe in the right spot actually helps out, but I wouldn't have picked for it to help there. He was very lucky to not end up in the wall there, but he's kept with it. Good run now down towards the elbow. The run through here is going to be pretty crucial as to the exit speed he picks up. Not quite as much of an apex.
Oh, got the
makes it
wall
out to the fence there. Not a major rub on the wall, but he's actually improved a little bit across the top as well. So he's up by 1/10.5.
Yeah, he did. He got a little bit of the wall on the exit. Now, did that delay him getting on the throttle at all or not? We'll soon find out. Down towards the chase, picking up speed, touching 290 right about now, 91. 92, 93, so it didn't actually hurt him too badly. Sort of similar speed going down the hill to what he had compared to Lime Mitch. So I dare say this will put him provisionally to the top of the timing screens. It'll just be a matter for how much longer. It'll probably be for about 3 minutes, so at least probably guaranteed with Luke Rosella still to come out in the shootout. 4.4 to get in, 4.2, so improves his time by 0.2 of a second. Currently sits provisionally on the front row. Will Devenish happy with the lap?
What did I get?
4.2.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
All right, man of very, very few words. Provisionally on the front row, possibly still staring at 2 Holdens being in front of you, but we won't know for another 3 minutes or so.
Awesome. Catch you guys soon.
No worries, thanks mate. So Will Devenish back in the sheds after that one, and we now turn our attention to Kurt Stenberg. So former winner here in the Bathurst 500, and now staring at potentially another front row start in ASR's great race.
Absolutely, yeah. He's got the history around this place to be scoring well. He does have his teammate, or indirect teammate, coming up after him in Luke Rosella, who's going to have to try and beat as well. But Stenberg, very much a good proposition for the race tomorrow with Zach Brown. And for now, he's going to get a good shootout lap in. Importantly, get a clean shootout lap in. He's at the end of the field where a track cut or a dirty lap can really, really hurt. Good little slide there out of turn 2. And a good little run now up towards the cutting. Gets it right outside to the wall. Brings it nice back in. Oh, no, bit of a slide there.
Yeah, yep. Little slide for the moment. Now get this. Let's see what happens at the first sector, and then I'll give you the 4.11 to tell you exactly what's got to happen here. So at sector 1, he's down, but nothing in it. Check this. Devenish has just set a 2:04.258. Stenberg's time to get in, 2:04.263. So he's got no choice. He has to go faster. Everybody's found some improvement in this second half of the shootout so far. So for Stenberg, this is critical. This section across the top of the hill is super, super important to being potentially on the front row tomorrow.
Yeah, it's all together. It looked like a very decent run, but there were a couple little moments there where the cars just stepped out from the rear, and not in a way that imbues pace. But that said, he's picked it up, so he's very much in the box seat now.
He's in the box seat now. What's the speed look like heading down the hill? Let's check it. up and under the bridge, about 275k through the gantry. How deep does he go into the chase? Everybody's getting right up into the zone they need to be in, the 292, 293, 294 kilometre an hour range, heading down into the braking zone for the chase. So everybody pushing the limits as far as they possibly can. Heading now down into Murray's for the final time tonight for Kurt Stenberg. Into the corner. Does he improve? Is he provisionally on the front row? He is. What, but not by much. 200ths of a second is all it was in it for Kurt Stenberg, and you found the time when you needed it most. It didn't look great at Sector 1, Kurt, but you picked it up where it mattered.
Yeah, I was a bit conservative through turn 1 and up turn 2, and I saw that sector split at first split, and I went, ooh, slightly down. Tried to push over the top and maximise, and I knew that I wasn't very strong in the last sector, but yeah, managed to bring it home. So I think I matched the time I did to get in, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you didn't just match it, you did go slightly better and you had no choice. So you've done really well there, mate. You're on the front row for tomorrow. Well done.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to
Oops, sorry, I just cut Kurt off there a little bit. He definitely, I think he pretty much said he's looking forward to it for tomorrow. And now we turn to the man who we expect to deliver probably what is not expected to be a surprise, but just a matter of by how much, Rody.
Yeah, it's really for Luke. I think if he gets a clean lap in, he's pretty much said he was a second and change clear of the rest of the field in the qualifying session. So, yeah, not much set up for him. Rossi corrected me earlier, so I will say this is a 2008 Bathurst livery that they're running, not 2009. But yeah, running the 100 for the 100-year anniversary of, I don't know if we actually what this 100-year anniversary is. I think it is Holden itself, but good run there, 4 tenths to the better, and probably expecting to be close in the region of a second. We're seeing similar gaps here to what we saw in 2003.
Yeah, 3-4 was Rosella's time to get into the shootout, and he set that fairly on in the piece as well. So heading down the hill into the dip up, out the other side. Very, very clean lap, very committed lap, but super, super clean. And now into the elbow. And he has opted out of an interview, we have been told, so we won't be hearing from Rosella. Oh, he gave the wall a bit of a substantial whack there as well, but he did pick up some more time across the top.
Yeah, 6.5 tenths, pretty good run there. Probably lost a little bit of time with that wall grab, but it won't really kick too much into it. He's got a couple of corners left to go, one or two big braking zones left. I can see him picking up a little bit there. A little bit slower on the VMAX than some of the cars we've seen, but a lot better of a run. Hacks it right across the inside. Good use the inside curve, about as much as you really want to take through there. And now he's just got the final corner to go. Yeah,
final corner to go. Purple through the first two sectors. It'll be fairly unsurprising when he gets to the final corner here. It's just a matter of what is the clock going to say. Is it better than a 3-4? It's basically the same as what he did to get into the shootout. So 3-4-6-1. And to get in, he did a 3-4-4-3. So he's virtually matched the time that he made in qualifying to get into the shootout. And that is why he is probably one of ASR's premier drivers, if not the premier driver.
Yeah, definitely one of the quickest guys to worry about on a racetrack. And yeah, not a surprise in the end. All he had to do was really match his PB, because even with the improvements of the guys behind him, the gap is still 7 tenths back to Kurt Stenberg and Will Devonish. So good run there for Luke Rosera, and that'll put the 888 HR Pixel Holden Racing Team Commodore on the front spot on the grid with his stablemate in the Super Cheap Auto car alongside him. So it makes it a all-Pixel front row and an all-Holden front row.
An all-Holden front row and an all-Mustang second row. So good to see how that all goes tomorrow as Rosella pulls over there, and that actually concludes qualifying for the night. So interesting to see, Rhodey, as well, that usually in the shootout, we're lucky to get maybe two drivers that'll improve on their lap time that they did in qualifying to get through. But I'm just going to do the math here and work this out. So Rosella improved by he didn't improve. He set the pole time, but he didn't go quicker. But I virtually can call him, he matched his time. Stenberg improved his time, and he was second. So too did Will Devonish. He improved his time. Noah Tara was a bit slower. Lime Mitch went quicker. Lewis Wedding, he definitely went quicker. So too did Lockie Burke. Brenton Foley, he went quicker as well. Aidan Williams was a bit slower, and Darryl Callahan actually was a bit slower as well. So we got over half the runners in the top 10 shootout improve their time. So that's almost unheard of in ASR, because normally that doesn't happen.
Yeah, especially as I mentioned, with the concern about getting enough temp into the tyres to start a lap. Yeah, to have half the drivers end up improving, that's pretty good, especially with some of the improvements we saw. Some drivers, you'd be pretty confident that we're probably pushing, already up to sort of 9.5 tenths, maybe 10 tenths of their pace coming into the shootout. And then for some of those drivers that you saw, not much of an improvement, which was expected, but some drivers found an extra tenth somewhere out there.
Yeah, some drivers only found a little bit, and some drivers found a lot. So that was the piece for me that I looked at and thought, well, if one driver can improve their time, great. But in two drivers, hey, that's pretty cool. But well over half the field, that's astounding. And I guess that's a lot of drivers have been putting in practice over the week, and they've been getting better and better and better. And you look at some of the debutants in the shootout tonight, with Darryl Callahan and Aidan Williams. Yep, they got in by merit. They got in by doing some really, really good lap times. So, hats off to them for all the work that they did throughout the week, sitting in servers with people like Cam Rutledge and Will Devonish and co, and actually learning the ropes and improving themselves. They've definitely, shown what they are capable of, especially when they are running up the pointy end of some of the development series fields. So good on them. It'll be good to see them tomorrow. And for us, that essentially concludes qualifying, and we look forward to tomorrow's race. So we'll bring it up for you again, just so you can see how it all goes according to plan. So 11 o'clock Eastern Australian Daylight Savings Time, the warm-up session will open up for the ASR driver fraternity that is participating in the 500. And the main race will start 2 hours after that. So it'll be about 1 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So over in New Zealand, that's 3 p.m. Across the other side of the country in Western Australia, that is 10 a.m. Because, of course, they don't do daylight saving. Queensland, you're an hour behind. So for you, that is 12 p.m. Adelaide, it is 12:30 p.m., so on and so forth. So keeping in mind that's if where you are situated in the Oceania region, that's how it plays out. Wherever you are in the world, please check your local time zone converter. I hear the website Time and Date is rather handy to use. So please tune in and join us tomorrow for the 500. We look forward to your company then. So until then, please drive safely, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.